Hello everybody, welcome back. In this video, we shall look at how we can make a simple paint box in Scratch. So by paint box, we mean like a very simple version of say a Tux Paint or an MS Paint paintbrush, right? So for this purpose, let's go to Scratch, and the first thing we would do is to give a create a new sprite which is going to do the drawing for us, right? So remember, the way this would work is when we click the mouse, it's going to draw something, right? So I'm going to delete my cat sprite here. Instead, I'm going to choose a new sprite, and in my case I choose a sprite called the pencil sprite. Right now you could really choose anything that you wanted. However, for this game to be effective, there are a few tips to be noted, right? So we will see this in context of the pencil sprite, and then we can see how some other sprites could be used. And if you search around in internet, you will find that sometimes people use a sprite with no costume also, right? So I mean, as an empty costume, right? So let's see now. This paint pencil sprite is what we will use. Now, one thing that we will do in the pencil sprite is to make it off the center, right? So what do I mean by that? I'm going to select this sprite, right? Say I select this. Now notice the center of this sprite is right now aligned with the center of the screen. Instead, what I'll do is to move this off the center a little bit. Right? Notice what I've done is to move my pencil sprite away from center a little bit. And what do I mean by center here is this little, you know, the circle plus square, circle plus the plus, which is sort of the center of the screen. So I will offset my pencil sprite a bit from this center. Right now, the reason for this will become clear as we go along. I'll talk about it. And as I said, you can choose not to use pencil sprite. That's okay. You can give another sprite, but preferably a sprite which has got a sharp tip, right? And like I said, some people choose to do it without any costume, so which means just the mouse pointer. However, pencil sprite with a little bit offset is fine, right? So that's what I've done. Now we will start writing some code. So the first thing that we will do is for the pencil sprite to draw something. Right now, remember, uh, for anything that relates to drawing, whenever we have a sprite draw something, we have to use the pen extension, right? So where do we get pen extension? Go click on this plus add extension and choose pen extension, right? So with pen extension, we get all of these blocks, erase, stamp, and so on and so forth. We will use these functions in our paintbrush, our paint box. So I put this here, and now I'm going to write some code for the pencil sprite, right? So I go, as always, I start all my code with when flag is clicked, right? So when flag clicked, so what do I want, right? I really want pencil to go near the mouse pointer. So wherever I'm moving the mouse pointer, it should go there. And when I click the mouse, it should start drawing, right? So this is what I want, right? So when I click the mouse, it should start drawing. Otherwise, it should just go to it, right? So first, we will give it the code to go to the mouse pointer all the time, right? So what do? I say when flag clicked, there is a function, there's a feature, there's a block here actually called go to random position. Right now, all I have to do is that instead of random position, I choose this drop down and say go to mouse pointer. Right now, let's say I did this. Is this code complete? The answer is no, because just like I've covered in a previous class as well, when flag clicked, go to mouse pointer will not do the job for us because it will happen only once. So you can see it now. It went to the mouse pointer when the flag is clicked, but we want it to be always going to the mouse pointer, sort of following the mouse pointer, right? So how do we do that? Very simple. Like we always do, we go to control and we wrap this in a forever, right? So if I did this, when flag clicked, forever, go to the mouse pointer. So now you notice that my pencil is coming near the mouse pointer all the time, right? Now, second thing you might notice is that the mouse pointer is slightly away from the pencil tip, right? Now, why did this happen? This happened because, as you remember, we put costume a little bit offset from the center, right? Now, let's say, just for the sake of exploration, say we undid that part, right? Say we did something like this, right? Let's say we put the center of the pencil on the center of the sprite, right? On the center of the costume. Then what happens is when I say go to mouse pointer, you notice now my mouse pointer is in the middle of the pencil and it gets a little bit clumsy for me to draw anything, right? So hence I said that let us move the costume a little bit away, right? It can be a little bit offset from here, right? Now some students, some people I see drawing using, for example, costumes which have something coming out here, for example, like a wand, right? I think there's a costume called magic wand. Now, in those cases, make sure that your, the last part of the sprite is offset from the center. Otherwise, it gets a little bit clumsy. It's not wrong, it's just a bit clumsy, right? Now, having given the capability to, so for example here, to basically move my pencil along with the mouse pointer by this go to mouse pointer button. Now let us do a very simple thing, which is we say that when the mouse is clicked, right? So when the mouse is clicked, I want pencil to also draw, right? And how do I do that? Well, it's not hard. I say so I'll use if then else in this case, because I want basically to draw when the mouse is clicked, and I want to stop the drawing when the mouse is unclicked, that means not clicked, right? So how do I do that? Well, I basically say if, go to sensing, I use a block called if mouse down, right? If mouse down, then sorry, go to the pen block, say pen down, right? Now remember, pen down means the sprite starts to draw something on the stage, right? Pen down means putting the pen to the paper, and hence as a result sprite starts to draw something on the stage, right? Now on the other hand, if the mouse is not clicked, I say pen up, right? So now what does this mouse down do, right? In simple words, it is just saying whether the mouse has been clicked or not, right? So now when I'm clicking the mouse, it's not easy for you to see, but nevertheless, when I'm clicking the mouse, I will say pen down, and then when I lift the mouse up, it will be pen up, right? So which means that if I put the mouse down and I start moving my pencil around, you notice now the pencil is drawing something, right? Pencil is doing this kind of a drawing, right? Now, the moment I lift up my mouse, its pencil still goes to the mouse pointer because of this go to mouse pointer, but I do not have it draw anything, because once I lift up the, once I do not click the mouse, the pencil goes into pen up mode. So once again I can try, I can put my mouse down, now I have put that. When I move my pencil, pencil is drawing something. When I lift this pencil up, it is not drawing anything, right? So that is like the very basic feature that we could build. Now let's say, we want to be able to adjust the pencil color and the pencil width, right? So, in a paint game, it's kind of imperative that I be able to set my pencil color and pencil width. And the way I would do that is again by using the functions in the pen block, right? So now remember that I can use the pen block to set the pencil color, or to set the pen color, or to set the pen size, right? So I could possibly, for example, do if mouse down, set pen color to something, and I will not use this one. I will use a number for my purpose. So I can say set pen color to say 50, right? And also set pen size to probably maybe I can say 10, right? So now what happens is that when I, in the same code as earlier, when I click the, when I click the mouse or pencil, when I click the flag, the pencil starts to follow the mouse. It is doing that right now. When I click down on the mouse, the pencil draws with the color of 50 and with a pen size of 10, right? So now let's say I stop this code. Perhaps I can erase everything. When I run this code, and let's say this time I said set pen color to 60, right? So then what happens is I have the pen color has changed, right? And the pen size is also 10 and it's drawing nicely because I have put my mouse down and I'm moving it around, right? Now, it would be nice, right? So I can also, let's say just for the sake of, completion, let's say if I did set pen size to 15, then, I can say, look, now here, draw something. Remember the pen size has become thicker, right? Now clearly in this game it will be nice if I started with an erase all, right? If I could basically erase everything in the beginning, right? So what I can do is when flag is clicked, basically erase everything, right? So with this, what happens is when flag is clicked, everything becomes clear and I can draw, right? Now it would be nice if I could change the pen color and pen size during the program. Now, right now, the way it is set up, set pen color to 60, set pen size to 15, right? It will be really nice if I could change the pen color and pen size during the program, right? And how do I do that? The answer is use variables, right? And in fact, this is a very good exercise for variables. So we will create two variables here for our case. We will create variables. And how do you create variable? Go click on variables, make a variable. Let's say I will call this variable, I can name it anything, but in this case, let's say I call a variable pencil width, right? So pencil width, and as I told you in another video where we spoke about variables, right? I'll put the link in the comments. I will use it in all sprites, right? So actually, technically, we can use it only for this sprite, but for purpose of simplicity, I will use it in all sprites, right? So now I created this pencil width 0. Also, I'll create a variable called pencil color, right? So pencil, let's say I'll call it pencil color, right? So now this also, I'll set this to something, right? Now, remember, right now, when I create a variable, right, they are both showing here. I will have them show, but this is in what is called the normal readout, right? So I will instead change this to a slider, right? And I'll also change this to a slider, right? Also, I will limit the range of sliders to 0 to 100. Now, it's always 0 to 100, so I'll make sure of that. And here also, I will make slider range say 0 to 100, right? So now I've spoken about slider in the companion video on variables. I request you to look at those. But the broad idea is that when I'm changing this slider, it will go between 0 and 100. It will have the effect of setting pencil width, right? So pencil width is a variable. The slider will have the same effect as setting pencil width. Now, if I want to take this pencil width and apply it to the pen that I'm using, all I have to do is that instead of saying set pen size to 15, set pen color to 60, I can say set, for example, pen color to, for instance, I can use the variable pencil color, right? Now, similarly, I can say set pen size to, for instance, pencil width, right? Now, if you want, it's not wrong. You can also, just to be sure that the game starts in a consistent manner, you can also set pen color and pen size, pencil width and pencil color to, so say pencil color to maybe 50, right? Pencil, let's say pencil color is pencil width to say maybe 10, right? Now what this does is that when the flag is clicked, it erases everything and sets pencil color and pencil width respectively. However, thereafter in the forever loop, I can control these variables from the slider. Remember, slider has the effect of setting the variable, right? And so what I gain is that by changing the slider, the value of these pencil width and pencil color can be changed. And since the pen blocks, pen color and pen size is being set using these variables, By sliding them, I will have the effect of changing the color and uh, width on the fly. So it's as though my sprite is going to remember, right? You might wonder, why do I do this? It's because I want the game to start in a consistent manner. I want this entire activity to start in a consistent manner. Otherwise, it will change with the slider. Right? It's always good to set in the beginning. Right now, let's say I say pencil width is 10, pencil color is 50, right? Remember, slider has gone there, right? So as always, go to mouse pointer, it's following me. I click the mouse down and it starts drawing something. Whatever I wanted, it starts to draw, right? It starts to draw something for me. Yeah. Now let's say in this speed, after drawing this much, I think, no, look, the pencil color should be changed. So very simple, I can go and change pencil color to, let's say, 20. Remember, slider has the same impact as set. So now what it has done internally is that it has set pencil color to 20, and inside this forever loop, pen color is being set to pencil color, right? Which means pen color here, Sprite remembers this variable pencil color, and it's going to set the pen color accordingly, right? Which means now if I do this, you notice the color has changed, right? So now my drawing is not so good, but if you are a good artist, you can start making very interesting things, right? So for example, let's say I can try making some, maybe some kind of a cloud. I don't know, it doesn't look like cloud, but then I can change maybe the pencil color to something else, and I can change the pencil color to something else, and I get some kind of a face or whatever, right? Whatever you want to do. Now, so far so good. In our paintbrush, right, there is no way to erase something, right? So it will be nice if I can give it a facility to erase everything that I've done so far, right? So right now I have only got a method to erase, which is go and click erase all. Of course, in the beginning I am erasing everything, right? So what I'll do is to give myself an erase button, right? So for that purpose, I'm going to introduce another sprite, right? So I'm going to say, take the sprite, for example, choose a sprite, and I'm going to use in this case, a simple button sprite, right? So because I want this to be an erase button. So let's say I'll use this button here, and it has got, okay. So I can change its color because I want this to erase. I want this to become like a red color. Not necessary, but for my purpose, I'll change its color to, let's say, dark red, and I'll use this to fill this into red color. So I got a red button which will erase everything, right? So I want this button to be an erase button, right? Now, how do I make this? So now notice I've got this button here. I can place it somewhere in the corner. Probably I can resize it a little bit. So I say make it 50% of what it is. So what I want is that if I go and click this button, whatever is on the screen should get erased, right? Now, how do I do that, right? Turns out there is an event in the event section called when this sprite is clicked, right? So when this sprite is clicked, erase everything, right? So now when I say when this sprite is clicked, erase everything, all I have to do is in the button code, I put when this sprite is clicked, I go to the pen block and I say erase everything, erase all, right? So remember, this erase all erases everything. Here what will happen is when this sprite is clicked, erase everything, right? So now I say, okay, look, I'm drawing something here. I know it, maybe I did not do a good job. I want to erase it. So I just go and click this here and it erases, right? Now, again, it helps that our pencil is offset from the mouse pointer, which was done, remember, by offsetting it off center, because this gives me room to go and click on the erase button, right? Now, one thing is that in this scenario, right, even if the flag is not clicked, this code will activate, right? Now this is okay for this game, sometimes it's not okay. We will cover that at a later point, right? But for now, whenever I click erase, whether the flag is clicked or not, it will erase, because I'm saying when the sprite is clicked, erase everything, right? But for some games this is not okay. For now it's all right, right? So now we have got, when I click this flag, I get a pencil of width 10, color 50. I can start drawing. I can change the pencil width, perhaps becomes much thicker. I can change it to even very thin. I can change the pencil color, right, to something here, right? In fact, if you look at the pencil code, right, you have got options to control color, saturation, brightness, and transparency, right? So I urge you to try these things out the same way. To create a variable here, give it a slider, and you can control this, control the value of that variable so that the sprite can remember using the slider, and you can set instead of pen color, perhaps say pen brightness, pen saturation to that variable, and you will get many more effects, right? What I want to do is to introduce you to something interesting, something also interesting, let's say, in the stamp block and in the, so I'm sorry, in the pen block, which is called stamping, right? Now, this creates a nice, effect to our drawing. And first thing I want you to just understand what is stamping, right? So notice what I'll do for this purpose is I'll create a new sprite just for the sake of explanation. I'll choose another sprite here, and let's say I'll say apple, right? So this apple sprite is here, right? Stamp is like creating a tattoo of the costume, right? So notice what will happen if I have apple here and I click stamp, right? Let's say then I move the apple, I click stamp, right? Let's say I move the apple again, I click stamp, right? So all it is doing is to take a stamp, like it's stamping on the stage the costume that the apple is presently holding, right? Now let's say I change the costume to, maybe I duplicated its costume, right? And I gave this particular apple a color of green apple, let's say, right? So I take this and I made it green apple. Then when I do stamp, so I go to here, so apple, it will stamp, it will make a green stamp. So here what I'm doing is I'm doing a stamp and moving it around, right? So this is just stamping, right? So this was just to illustrate what does stamping do. Remember, these are not live sprites, okay? There was only one sprite here, which is this. We have created its stamp on the playground, right? So that is just to illustrate what is stamping, right? Now we will integrate stamping into our paint game. But first thing first, remember we have an erase button. So if I click this, I expect all this to be erased. That's what happened, right? Even though flag is not clicked, when I click this sprite, it erased everything, right? Now let's see how we can implement stamp in our paint game, right? So now some students found it a little bit complicated, but it's really not that hard, and it illustrates a very nice principle about variables. Hence I'm introducing that, right? So stamping, remember, will create stamps of the costume of the given sprite, right? Stamps only. Okay, now let's say I add a new sprite called, say I have another button, let's say I call it button. Yeah, let's say I take this button. In this case, of course, there's no compulsion that you must use this button, but let's say I use this button and I resize it a little bit and put it here, right? So now what I want to do with this button is that if I click this button, then I will start stamping, right? If I click it again, I will not stamp. I will go back to drawing, right? So I will want my picture, I will want my pencil to switch between drawing like it's doing usually and stamping. So we will see how we can do that, right? So we have got this picture is drawing now. Let's say I click this button. I want to, when I move let's say the mouse, it should start stamping. That's what I want, right? So what I can do is I will use a variable to make this function happen, right? And here there's an interesting concept coming up. Yeah, I will use this variable. I'll make a variable. I'll call it stamp mode, right? So which means it's saying that is my pencil in the stamping mode or not, right? So I should let me just show this again. When I'll let me delete this for the moment. Where is it? I'll delete this variable. I'll create this again. So I'll make a variable called stamp mode, and so by stamp mode I mean is my pencil in the mode of drawing or in the mode of stamping. So pencil will remember, and also I will make this visible to all sprites. Now this is important for this particular purpose. You will see this in a moment, right? So I've got the stamp mode. I can have it visible. If you want, I can go to the normal readout, large readout. It becomes like this, but let's just leave it at normal readout, right? Now, what I'll do is I will write code for this button, right? Now, remember the variable stamp mode is visible to all sprites, which means it's like a common pencil box, right? So it's like a common pencil box which anybody can access, right? So I'm going to write for this button a simple code. When flag clicked, right, I use the if then else statement, which is, remember, like a T junction. If, let's say, if I use this operator condition, if, say, let's say I have, yeah, so stamp mode is equal to 0. We just, let me put this code and then we'll go through it very slowly. It's somewhat little bit confusing probably, but if you see this carefully, it will be okay, right? It's kind of illustrates the logic of programming quite nicely, right? So I will say when the flag, so I do not want to do this when flag is clicked, my mistake. I will say in the events, when this sprite is clicked, right? So when this sprite is clicked, if stamp mode is 0, that means the moment sprite is clicked, check whether stamp mode is 0 or 1. If it is 0, then I say set stamp mode to 1, right? So I say set stamp mode to 1. Else I'll say duplicate this code. I'll say set stamp mode to 0. So let's see this very carefully. So what this is going to do is, when the sprite is clicked, it will check whether it will basically open the box called stamp mode, the variable called stamp mode, and see its present value. If the present value is 0, it will change the present value to 1, right? I'm not using change here. I'm just saying set. It will set, remember, takes it to a fixed value. So it will set the stamp mode value to 1. On the other hand, if it is 1, if it was 1, which means this condition is not correct, so it goes into the else, it will set the stamp mode back to 0, right? Now, let's see this in action first and then we will understand, right? Before we do any other code, right? So I save and flag is clicked. In fact, I don't need to do it because remember, this is when this sprite click, but nonetheless, when I go and click this stamp mode, so notice stamp mode became 0, right? Because this code happened here. Now, again, I click stamp mode, it becomes 1 because when the sprite is clicked, check if the stamp mode is 0, make it 1. If stamp mode is 1, make it 0, right? So stamp mode became 1, 0, 1, 0, right? So I'm creating some kind of a mode here, which is whether my pencil will do stamping or not, and it will toggle, it will change its value based on whether I've clicked this. If I click it once, it becomes stamp mode is equal to 1. For example, if it was, now it's 1, so if I click it again, it will become 0 because of this, right? Now, common mistake I see in students is to wrap this in a forever, right? Now, if you did this, right, if you did this, it's wrong, because what this will do is that it will always keep switching between stamp mode 0, stamp mode 1, right? So it will always keep on. So when I, for example, when I click this sprite, you notice it is going between 0 and 1. That's because we have by mistake put a forever here, right? So forever, it's opening the stamp mode box. If it finds a 0, it changes it to 1. Then it comes back again, opens it, finds a 1 there, changes it to 0, and so on. So it keeps on toggling forever. So we don't want this. We just want it for once. Here we do not need a forever, and we do this, right? Now, coming to the pencil, right? Remember, the stamp mode is visible to both pencil and the button, right? So it was visible to all the sprites, in this case pencil, button, in fact the erase button as well, which is button 1 for us, right? So what I could do is I would say, look, let me set the pen color and all that, that's no problem, but here I can put a small condition. If, let's say, if I move this here, what do? I say if stamp mode equals to 0, right? So if stamp mode equals to, so if I've got the stamp mode here, now remember the stamp mode is controlled from this button 2, right? If I say stamp mode is equal to 1, then I will stamp, else I will draw. Right? I'll just do, so what is this here again, right? This is the same code. I've built it up a little bit. I'm setting all the pencil color and so on and so forth. I'm saying if the stamp mode is equal to 1, then stamp, else draw, right? So let's see this. So I click the flag. Remember, my mouse starts following the, you know, my pencil starts following the mouse, and I'm drawing something, right? Again, I could change with slider. Color changes. It became too thick, right? Maybe pencil color I can change. I can do this. I don't like all this. I can erase everything, right? Now I was doing something. Let's say I go here and I click this. Now the moment I click this, wherever I go and click, it creates a, it creates a stamp of the present costume, right? Now you can add a lot more color to this by using what is called the color effects. I can, try this for yourself. It's fun, but I'll leave it at this here today, right? So we have now remembered that's in stamp mode. Now let's say I want to go back to drawing, right? Let's say I want to go back to drawing. Remember, all I have to do is to make my stamp mode go 0 again, right? So I click, and how does that happen? If I click this sprite, stamp mode becomes 0. Now when I click the button and draw, it starts to draw, right? So you can do a mix of stamping and drawing. Whenever you are, think it's become too much, you can always erase everything, and then you're back to this again. You can change this variable, right? Became too thick, maybe I'll say this, right? And so on and so forth. And you can add many more controls, draw something more meaningful than what I'm doing, and you have got a little paintbrush ready here, right? With an added feature of adding the stamp mode. So what I see students doing is they use different costumes for the same pencil, and then it stamps in different ways, as I showed you with an apple, right? So with this, we have basically created a simple paintbrush game which uses variables, which uses the concept of sliders, and finally we used a variable to make Sprite remember whether it has to stamp or it has to draw, and that variable was controlled from this button. And we also have an erase button, so it's a good practice to say rename these. I say erase, right, just for myself, and here I can say stamp, let's say, right? And there's many things you can do. As you search in the internet, you will find a lot of stuff, right? But this is a basic paint game. I hope you enjoyed watching this. Thank you so much. Bye bye.